Hello, welcome to my latest book review. It's on this book, Weird Washington. It's by Jeff Davis and Al Eufrasio. So you guys probably seen it on the bookshelf at the bookstore or at the library. It's a pretty popular book. I've seen it around a lot in Barnes and Noble. It's one of a whole series. I guess these guys wrote a series called Weird America, and they had a bunch of stories from all over America, and then they branched off and did a series from each individual state. I live in Washington, so this one is the Weird Washington one, and I found the book very interesting for the most part. There was a lot of interesting legends and stories that I didn't know about, and it actually went more in depth in some local legends that I didn't know the whole story about. So I found that really interesting. One of the things that I didn't like was there's great pictures in here. I'll give it credit on its pictures, but it was 240 pages or something like that, and there was quite a few sections I did not find very interesting. There was a whole section about buildings shaped like teapots. Not that I don't think that would be interesting, but it was probably like at least close to 10 pages of just about buildings shaped like teapots. And then they had spooky roads, which I mean, some were interesting, but some didn't even really explain why they were that spooky or what. And then they had like a section that just sort of talked about supposedly interesting neighborhoods, but I didn't really think that it was that interesting. So a lot of the ghost stuff I really liked. There's some interesting ghost stuff, including local stuff around where I live that I liked, and it had a lot of like monster stuff that was really interesting, and like a lot of stuff about murderers that was interesting. But I mean, buildings and neighborhoods that don't have any real significance was not really that interesting. So that being said, I would give this book 4 out of 5, because like I said, it had great pictures, and probably 75% of the book was really good. It had a lot of local legends and history, and it was well written, so I really liked that. That being said, I felt like they focused a lot on the areas by Seattle, and I live in Kitsap County now, and they did have a few legends about Kitsap County, but I grew up in Port Angeles, and they almost had nothing about that area on the Olympic Peninsula. They mentioned Crescent Lake and the people turning to soap or whatever, the dead bodies in there turning to soap because of the minerals, which was cool. But I mean, growing up out there, there's a ton of legends, and they didn't really go into any local legends out there. Squim, Port Angeles, Forks, they all have great local legends. Quilcene, the whole rainforest, all kinds of stuff. They just kind of left off, and I felt like they even left off some stuff. You know, Polsbo has a lot of legends they didn't go into, and I guess when you write a book like this, maybe everybody won't be happy, but I felt like they could have had less stories about teapots and more local legends about monsters and myths and ghosts. And I mean, there's just a plethora of stuff they could have chose instead of including 10 pages about teapot shaped buildings. But overall, it was a good read. It kept me interested. I read it pretty fast. It's nice because it's short. The short stories, only 3 or 4 pages per story, so it's not like you're sitting there reading forever. You can read a story real fast while you're cooking dinner or whatever the case might be. So overall, I thought it was a good book. So if you're interested in local legends, Weird Washington, check it out.